All right, welcome. Today we are digging into a really fascinating corner of property law. It's a place where a simple promise goes head to head with one of the strongest legal shields out there. We're talking about a story that's all about promises, property, and a pretty critical legal puzzle. And that really gets us to the heart of the matter today. I mean, can a simple promise actually break what's supposed to be an unbreakable property title? Just imagine for a second. You've got what the law calls an indefeasible title to your land. You are the registered owner, period. That should be the end of the story, right? But what if you made a promise? Does fairness have a say when the strict letter of the law seems to have drawn a line? Okay, so to really get this, we first need to understand that legal shield we're talking about. It's a concept called indefeasibility, and believe me, it is the absolute bedrock of our modern property system. Now I know, that definition sounds super dense and legalistic, but here's what it really means in plain English. If your name is on the government's official register as the owner of a piece of land, that's it. It's a done deal. Your ownership is basically guaranteed. It means someone can't just pop up out of the woodwork with some old, dusty, unregistered document and claim they had a piece of the land before you did. And honestly, this is the perfect way to picture it. Indefeasibility is like a giant legal fortress built around your property rights. It gives you certainty, it gives you security, and it protects you from all these hidden claims from the past that you would have no way of knowing about. It is an incredibly powerful protection. But what happens when that fortress gets put to the test? And not by some outsider trying to break in, but by the actions of the owner who's already inside. So let's look at a real-life stress test for this idea. The classic high court case, Barr versus Nicolai. The story itself is pretty straightforward, but oh man, the implications are huge. So you've got the Barrs. They sell their land to a guy named Nicolai, but, and this is a big but, they put a clause in the contract that lets them buy it back later. Simple enough. Then Nicolai turns around and sells that same land to a new couple, the Thompsons. Now, pay attention, because step 3 is the absolute key to this whole thing. The Thompsons knew all about the Barrs buyback clause. Not only did they know, they explicitly agreed in writing to honor it. But as soon as they became the official, registered owners, they completely changed their tune and refused to sell the land back. So you can just imagine the legal showdown, right? The Thompsons basically said, hey, we've got an indefeasible title. We're inside the legal fortress. They argued that their new, shiny, registered title wiped the slate clean of any prior claims, including that buyback agreement with the Barrs. So the big question is, does that fortress protect you from a promise you yourself made? And this is where the law gets, well, really elegant. The High Court's answer wasn't to tear down the fortress. Nope, it was to walk right in through the front gate. They did this using a principle from an area of law called equity, specifically something called the in personam exception, which at its core is all about your personal obligations to other people. So the court basically drew a line in the sand. They said, look, the shield of indivisibility is there to protect you from stuff you don't know about. Things from the past, errors in the system, hidden interests, all that outside noise. But what it does not do is protect you from the consequences of your own choices and your own actions. It is not a get-out-of-jail-free card to break your promises or to act dishonestly. And that right there is the absolute core of the decision. By acknowledging the Barr's interest and then promising to honor it, the Thompsons created a personal, ethical, and equitable obligation. The court said that for them to then turn around and use their indefeasible title to get out of that promise would be, and this is a great legal term, unconscionable. It's basically the law's way of saying it would be so deeply fundamentally unfair that it just can't be allowed. So how did the court actually make this happen? Well, they used a really clever tool called a constructive trust. Essentially, the court said to the Thompsons, okay, you're the legal owners on paper. We're not changing that. But because of the promise you made, you are now holding that property in trust for the Barrs until you make good on your agreement to sell it back to them. It's a brilliant way for the law to enforce fairness without blowing up the whole property register system. Okay, so let's zoom out. Why is this one case so important? What's the big deal? Well, it sets the ethical boundaries of property ownership. It's a powerful reminder that the law isn't just a cold, rigid set of rules. It's a living system that is constantly trying to balance the need for certainty with a fundamental need for fairness. So let's just boil this all down to the essentials. What have we learned? Number 1, a registered property title is without a doubt an incredibly secure fortress. 2, but, and this is the big one, it is not a shield for your own personal dishonesty. 3, that's because this other branch of law, equity, can and will step in to enforce the explicit promises you make. And it all comes together to show how our legal system works, constantly doing this dance to balance clear, predictable rules with a need to prevent really terrible, unjust outcomes. If you walk away with just one thing from all this, let it be this. The whole system of indefeasibility, that legal fortress, it's designed to protect a new owner from the baggage and the secrets of a property's past. It was never ever meant to be a weapon for an owner to escape the consequences of their own promises and their own conduct. Turns out the law's strongest shield has a blind spot, and it's your own conscience. And that just leaves us with a really fascinating thought to chew on, doesn't it? This whole idea that even the strongest, most unbreakable rules have these little backdoors built in to make sure things are fair, that doesn't just stop with property law. It really makes you wonder what other absolute rules in law, or maybe even in life, have that little bit of flex when justice really demands it. Thanks for digging into this with us.